Hello, this is Miss Harris here to talk to you about line plots. So, the important tips you want to remember when you're looking at line plot questions, the X's are the most important thing. They tell you how many times to write the fraction, and how many times that number of people or whatever the problem is talking about. The X's tell you how many times it happened. All right, the next thing, make sure that all of your fractions have the same denominator. You're going to be looking at a number line, and we talked about in third grade that you could put fractions on the number line. So you want to make sure that they have the same denominator. If your fractions are missing, all you have to do is start at the beginning and you want to keep counting. And remember, we learned that you count the spaces in order to know what the denominator should be. Next, remember that the word difference or the phrase longer than, fewer than, farther than, shorter than, all of those mean that you need to subtract. The next thing, whenever you see the word total, in all, sum, or the word combine, remember that that means that you need to be adding. But if you're going to add, you have to pay attention to your x's, because whatever fraction you're looking to add, the x's tell you how many times to write that fraction down. So you have to add everything. And then the next important thing, so that you don't get confused, you want to switch out some words to help you figure out what to do. So you'll see words like heaviest, longest, tallest, most. That's not referring to the stack of x's that you see. It's referring to the fraction on the number line. So we want to switch these words out for the word big. So we're looking for the biggest fraction, as in the biggest amount when we look at the number line or the line plot. And then you switch out the word shortest and least for the word small, meaning I'm looking for my small fraction. Remember that your big fractions, number lines go in order. So your big fractions are located to the right, your small fractions are located to the left. All right, so let's get into it. On Monday, Mrs. Smith weighed all of her students' lunches to create this line plot below for a math lesson. The title of the line plot is Weight of Student Lunches in Pounds. Part A, the question says, how many students did Miss Smith have on Monday? So first off, I'm going to look up here at the number line. It starts with 0 and goes to 1. And if you notice, I got 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, 1. I want all of my fractions to have the same denominator. So I'm going to start at the beginning and I just need to count on. So 0, 1/4, instead of 1/2, I want to put 2/4. And the reason they have 1/2, and you could see it a lot, they just want to make sure that you understand equivalent fractions. But when you have to add so many fractions, sometimes you don't want to have to be worried about, oh, the bottom number is not the same. So if you just change it from the beginning, and then if you need to for your answer, you can find out which answer is equivalent to your answer. All right, so it says how many students. Remember, when you see how many, that means you need to be looking at the x's. So it told me in the beginning that this whole information happened on Monday. So the question is basically asking me how many students had lunch on Monday. So I'm just going to count the x's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So my answer to this question should be 11. This is the easiest kind of question you'll get when all they want you to do is count up. And then sometimes they could confuse you and say how many had less than a certain amount. Then you need to find that amount and look at only the x's that are less than. Or they might say which had more than this amount, and you only look at the x's that's over the amount that they said. All right, next question. The line plot below shows the distance various kids walk to school. How many miles do the kids who walk 1/4 of a mile walk in all? Remember to press pause and try to work through it yourself. If you get stuck, press play, or you come up with an answer, press play to check your answer. All right, so the first thing I notice is my number line. There are absolutely no fractions. I need fractions to look at. So remember, third grade, count the spaces in order to see what your fraction or your denominator should be. Plus, in the question, it told me I'm looking at 4 1/4. So obviously, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So I'm dealing with fourths. So my number line, I always start with 0. So if I go in order, here's 1/4. This would be 2/4, and this would be 3/4. Sorry. So the question only wants to know how many miles do the kids who walk 1/4 walk in all? In all, we said that means to do what? Add. Good job. So I'm not, even though I see how many, I'm not counting the X's because it said how many miles. And it's telling me that my miles are in fourths. So I'm looking to find a total with my fractions. And they said who walked 1/4, so I'm only looking here. So the X's are telling me how many times to write down 1/4. How many X's do we have on top of 1/4? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so that means I need to say 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. I need to say it 8 times. Or now that we know how to multiply fractions, what would be the shorter version of this? Yes, 1/4 times 8. Whichever one you feel comfortable with, you'll get the same answer. So I'm going to work out the multiplication. Remember, in order to multiply a fraction and a whole number, I need my whole number to become a fraction by putting a 1. And then I do top times top, that equals 8. Bottom times bottom, that equals 4. I have an improper fraction and I don't see that as one of my answers, so I need to fix it. You have two options: subtract with the whole until you get an answer, or if you're in 5th grade, you understand that fractions are just a division problem. So I can say 8 divided by 4. How many groups of 4 are in 8? Or 4 times what can give me 8? That would be 2. And what is 4 times 2? 8. And I have 0 as a remainder. So my answer is 2. So your answer should have been 2. If you subtract it, let me do that real quick so you can see. I can't subtract again because it would give me 0. So I box my wholes that I found, and I found 2 whole fractions. Okay? Let's look at another one. Again, most of the information at the top of your number line is not even that important. It's just giving you a description of what they're talking about. So we're going to go ahead and look at the question. How much longer is the longest wingspan than the shortest wingspan that Pam recorded? All right, so my important words: how much longer, and I see Dan, so that means I need to be subtracting something. All right, then I have the word longest and shortest. Remember, longest, we're going to switch that out for what word? Big, that is correct. And shortest, small. This let me know that I'm looking at fractions, not how tall the x's are. So remember, your big amounts, your number line go in order. So you get bigger as you go this way and smaller as you go this way. So what's my biggest amount? 1. That is correct. And remember, you only pick whatever has an X, because if it doesn't have an X, that means it did not happen. Let's see. My small amount, I look over here. I'm not going to pick 0 because there's no X there. So I have to pick 1/4. So 1 minus 1/4. All right. Remember, I cannot do anything because they don't look alike. So I need my whole number to go back to being a fraction. So remember, I can look at my denominator and know what the whole was supposed to be. And it was supposed to be fourths. So I'm going to turn my 1 whole back into a whole fraction and bring down the rest of my problem. And look, they tried to trick you, but 4/4 is not my answer. I need that in order to find my answer. So 4/4 minus 1/4 is equal to 3/4. That is correct. All right, look at this part B question. What is the total length of the wingspan of the 2 butterflies with the shortest wingspan. All right, these get a little tricky when they start being real specific. Instead of just saying total, they want you to look at certain ones. So I'm going to circle total. We know that means add. It says of the 2 butterflies with the shortest wingspan. Remember, we switched the word shortest for small. And then they're telling me I should only be looking at 2 amounts. So let's see. Shortest, I'm down here at 1/4. So how many 1/4s are there? Remember, when you're doing total, you got to add according to how many X's that you see. So I got 1/4. And I'm going to try it because it could be asking you 2 different ways. So we're going to try it 2 different ways and see if the answer is up there. So the first way, if I write down everything I see for 1/4, I already have 2 fractions to add with. So that would be 2/4, and I do see that answer, but let's try it another way. The other way is to use 2 of the smallest amounts. Which of the 2 butterflies with the shortest wingspan? And that would be 1/4 plus 2/4, and they gave that answer choice too. So, but 2 butterflies with the shortest wingspan, my shortest amount was 1/4, and it just so happened 2 of them measured 1/4. So this would be my answer. So 2/4 would be your answer for part B. Remember, switching out those words is what's going to help you understand what the question wants you to answer. All right, the next one. Again, we're not going to focus on the top. That's just a description of what's going on. So the question says, how much lemonade did Jenny sell? How much lemonade did Jenny sell? So at the top, it talks about she's selling lemonade for 1 week, and the graph is showing us how much she sold, each amount that she sold during the week. So they said, how much lemonade did she sell? So basically, they want me to add everything that I have. All right, first I check my denominators. Everything is the same, so I'm good to go. All right, so I start at the beginning. 1/8. I do not write that down. There is no X. That means that amount never happened. The only reason it's up there is because your number line has to do with go in order. So that's why 1/8 is there, but they didn't have anyone to buy 1/8. All right, so the next amount is 2/8. So I'm gonna write that down because I see an X. How many X's do I see? 1. That's right. So that means I only have to write it down how many times? 1 time. Good job. All right, so plus, what's the next amount I need to write down? 4/8. How many times we're gonna write it though? Good. Write it 3 times because we see 3 X's. All right, what's the next amount? Good. And the next one? How many times you gonna write it? 2 times because we see 2 X's. Do I need to write 7/8 down? Do I need to write 1 down? No, I do not. There are no X's. All right, now we're ready to work it out. So we have, remember, you can find you some shortcuts. I have 3 4/8, so I'm just going to say 4/8 times 3. That's 12/8. I have 2 6/8. And remember to cross out what you've done so you don't get confused. So I'm going to say 6 times 2. That's 12/8. And then I have 2/8 and 5/8, sorry. Okay, 12 plus 12 is 24. They tried to trick you. They got that as an answer choice, but you're not done adding. So be careful about that. 5 plus 2, 7/8. And then I add those together. $31. And again, we talked about sometimes that you can keep your answer as improper, or they'll ask you to change it. It just depends on your answer choices that you see. So if you see all of your answer choices are improper, you can just stop there. But if they give you 2 improper and 2 mixed numbers, that means they're trying to trick you, and you might want to go ahead and fix it. All right, and then part B question, how much more? Oh, what does that mean? How much more? Good. Subtraction. How much more lemonade did Jenny sell on the day that she sold the most lemonade than on the day she sold the least lemonade? So instead of using the word difference, they're using those how much more, how much less than, how much fewer than. All right, what did we say we're going to switch out the word most for? Big. Good job. What did we say for the word least? Small. Awesome. All right, so what was my biggest amount? Again, you're not looking up here. It's not the fraction that got the most x's. We're looking at the number line. The biggest fraction, smallest fraction. All right, so what's your biggest fraction? Not 7/8. Does it have an x on it? No, so we're going to use 6/8. Then I'm subtracting my small amount. What's my smallest amount? I do see 1/8, but is there a fraction? I'm sorry, is there an x? No, so we have to use 2/8. So what is your answer? 4/8 should be your answer. All right. The line plot below shows the amount of snowfall in inches each hour during an 8-hour snowstorm. All right, what was the total snowfall amount for the storm? All right, what's important? Total. Good job. What does that tell you? Addition. All right, and then remember, we want to look at our number line, make sure what the denominators are the same, and they are, so I am good to go. Based on what we see the denominator, what answer choices can we get rid of? Good. I hope you said A and B. If we know when we add, your denominator has to stay the same. So A has 64 as the denominator, B has 19. We know that can't be the answer. All right, so here we go. What am I going to write down first to add with? 1/8, how many times? Good, 2 times. All right, plus, what's the next one? How many times? Good. The next one? Only 1 time. Plus, awesome. Got to write that 2 times. Do I write anything else? Why not? Good job. No X's. All right, so here we go. Remember to put things together, help make it simple for you. So 1 plus 1, we know that equals 2. And we have 2 8s right here. It's 3 of them. So 2 times 3 is 6/8. Plus, we only have 1 3/8. Remember, cross out what you used so you don't use it again. And then 4 plus 4, we know that equals 8. Oh, wait a minute. What happens when we see the same number at the top and bottom? Good, that's a whole. However, looking at our answer choices, do they have whole numbers for the answer choices? No, so we're just going to leave it like it is. But that's a good catch to make your life a lot simpler when you're adding. As soon as you find a whole, you want to put it to the side. But since our answer choices is not showing us whole numbers, we're going to keep it all together. So 8 plus 3, that's 11, plus 2, that's 13, 6 more, 19, 8. So your answer should have been D. All right, let's try one more. Remember, press pause, try it by yourself, and then press play to check your work. All right, so the question at the bottom says, what is the difference in growth in inches between the students who grew the most and the students who grew the least? All right, what's important? Difference. What does that mean? Good. What else is important? Most and least. The word least, we're going to switch for small. The word most, switch it for big. Awesome. All right, so what was my biggest fraction or my biggest amount on the number line? Remember, you're looking at the order of the numbers, not the tallest stack of x's. No, no, no. I want the numbers because we can't subtract with x's. We can only subtract with the fractions or numbers. So what's your biggest number? Number 1. What was your smallest amount or number? Don't say 0 because good, no x's. So minus 1/4. All right, again, I cannot do anything when they don't look alike. So I need to change my whole number back into a fraction. What whole fraction will I use? 4/4. Well, how do you know that? Look at the denominator. Good. All right, and then I bring down my 1/4 so I can subtract. 4/4 minus 1/4 equals 3/4. Awesome. All right, I hope this video was helpful. Feel free to rewatch, try it again, try it on your own, see if you can get the answers on your own, and see you next time.